Humble pranams to all. I am Dr.R.Thilainayaki, Assistant Professor of History, PG and Research Department of History, Sri Sharada College for Women Autonomous, Salem 16, Tamil Nadu. Today, my topic is Warren G. Harding. Under the title of the paper, History of the USA from 1920 to 2017 AD. Let us see about the topic. Warren G. Harding. Warren G. Harding, the 29th President of United States. He was born on November 2nd, 1865 in Blooming Grove, Ohio. His early life was marked by modest means and he worked various jobs before entering politics. He rose through the ranks to become a prominent Republican figure before ultimately winning the presidency in 1920. President of the USA. Warren G. Harding, the 29th President of the United States, served from 1921 until his untimely death in 1923. His presidency was marked by both success and controversies, shaping a legacy that remains the subject of historical analysis. Harding's administration sought a return to normalcy after the turmoil of World War I. His commitment to domestic issues, particularly economic stability, led to the signing of the Fordney-Macumber Tariff Act in 1922, aimed at protecting American industry. However, his pursuit of normalcy also faced challenges such as the Teapot Dome scandal, which stained his presidency with allegations of corruption. Next, Washington Naval Conference of 1921 to 1922. One of the Harding's significant foreign policy achievements was the Washington Naval Conference of 1921 to 1922. This multilateral effort aimed to prevent an arms race among major powers and promote disarmament. The resulting treaties, including the Five-Power Treaty, reflected Harding's commitment to international peace and stability. Next, despite these accomplishments, Harding's presidency is marked by the Teapot Dome scandal, in which his administration was implicated in leasing public oil reserves to private companies in exchange for bribes. The scandal tarnished Harding's reputation and raised questions about the ethical conduct within his administration. Harding's approach to civil rights was inconsistent while he advocated for racial harmony and appointed African Americans to key positions. Next, Fordney-Macumber Tariff Act in 1922. Harding's administration sought a return to normalcy after the turmoil of World War I. His commitment to domestic issues, particularly economic stability, led to the signing of Fordney-Macumber Tariff Act in 1922, aimed at protecting American industry. Next, His notable achievements in his period, he committed so many notable achievements. Warren G. Harding's presidency, though made scandals, also had notable achievements also. First one, economic policies. In his economic policies, he introduced, implemented pro-business policies supporting tax cuts and reducing government regulation to stimulate economic growth. The Fordney-Macumber Tariff Act of 1922 aimed to protect American industries, contributing to economic stability. Next, economic growth and return to normalcy. International diplomacy. Harding hosted the Washington Naval Conference in 1921 to 1922. Major naval powers negotiated arms reduction agreements to prevent an arms race and promote global disarmament. The resulting five-power treaty helped ease tensions and fostered a period of relative peace in the interior layers. And return to normalcy, Harding hosted the Washington Naval Conference. Harding hosted the Naval Conference in 1921, and Harding's campaign slogan, "Return to Normalcy," was a central theme in Warren G. Harding's presidential campaign in 1920. Harding's approach to foreign affairs was influenced by this idea of normalcy. And capturing the public's desire for a return to stability and predictability after the disruptions of World War I, Harding's approach to foreign affairs was influenced by this idea of normalcy, and it manifested in several key ways. Next, preservation of civil liberties. Harding commuted the sentences of political prisoners from the Spionage Act and related wartime legislation, democrating a commitment to civil liberties. Next, cabinet appointments. In cabinet appointments, Harding appointed capable individuals to key positions, including Charles Evans Hughes, a Secretary of State, and Herbert Hoover as Secretary of Commerce, contributing to a competent and experienced administration. Despite these achievements, Harding's legacy is often overshadowed by the Teapot Dome scandal, where members of his administration were implicated in corruption. It is essential to acknowledge both his positive contribution and the challenges that tainted his presidency. And next, cabinet appointments. Harding's appointment capable individuals to key positions, including Charles Evans Hughes, as Secretary of State and Herbert Hoover as Secretary of Commerce, contributing to a competent and experienced administration. Normalcy and foreign affairs. Normalcy was a central theme in Warren G. Harding's presidential campaign in 1920, capturing the public's desire for a return to stability and predictability after the disruptions of World War I. Harding's approach to foreign affairs was influenced by this idea of normalcy, and it manifested in several key ways. Washington Naval Conference. We already saw this naval conference so many times, even though it is very essential in his period of Washington Naval Conference, seeking to reduce naval competitions and avoid arms races. Harding hosted the Washington Naval Conference. The major naval powers, including the United States, Britain, Japan, France, and Italy, negotiated agreement to limit naval armaments through the Five-Power Treaty. This diplomatic effort aimed to establish a new normal in international relations by fostering disarmament and reducing the risk of conflict. Next, diplomacy and economic interest. In diplomacy and economic interest, Harding believed in promoting American economics interests through diplomacy. His administration aimed to secure overseas markets for American goods and investments, contributing to economic growth and stability. Next, Latin American relations. In Latin American relations, Harding took steps to improve relations with Latin American countries, advocating for stability and economic corruption. The administration pursued a policy of non intervention in Latin American affairs, signaling a departure from previous intervention approaches. While Harding's normalcy agenda aimed to restore a scene of order and regularity to both domestic and foreign affairs. It faced challenges, the Teapot Dome scandal, corruption, corruption, controversy involving the leasing the government oil reserves, tarnished the administration's reputation. Despite this setback, the Washington Naval Conference stands out as a notable achievement in Harding's foreign policy, embodying the pursuit of normalcy on the international stage. Next, the Four-Power Treaty. In the Four-Power Treaty, the Power Treaty was one of the agreements that emerged from the Washington Naval Conference held from 1921 to 1922. This treaty, signed on December 13, 1921, involved the United States, Britain, Japan, and France, and it aimed to address power dynamics in the Pacific region. Here's an examination of the key aspects of the Four Power Treaty. Let me see. Territorial integrity in the Pacific. Territorial integrity in the Pacific area. The primary objective of the Four Power Treaty was to affirm territorial integrity and status quo in the Pacific. The signatory nations committed to respecting each other's positions and territories in the Pacific, maintaining the existing balance of power. Next, we can see limitations on fortifications. Before that, we see consultation in the event of disputes. In case of future disputes arising in the Pacific, the signatories in the Pacific another peacefully resolved these issues. The treaty emphasized diplomatic dialogue over aggressive action or military conflicts, and limitations on fortifications. One notable aspect of the Four Power Treaty was in provision limiting the fortification of islands in the Pacific. While the treaty recognized the rights of the signatory nation to maintain and construct fortification for defensive purpose, it aimed to avoid an escalation of military presence that could lead to tension. Next, the maintenance of the status quo. In USA's history, the maintenance of the status quo in the period of war hoardings by affirming the status quo. The Four Power Treaty sought to prevent any aggressive actions that could upset the balance of power in the Pacific. This was particularly relevant given the aftermath aftermath of World War I and the desire to avoid a new arms race in the region. Next, the consultation in the event of the disputes. In case of future disputes arising in the Pacific, the signatories agreed to consult with one another to peacefully resolve these issues. The treaty emphasized diplomatic dialogue over aggressive actions or military conflicts. Then limitations on fortifications. One notable aspect of the Four Power Treaty was its prevention limiting the fortification of islands in the Pacific. While the treaty recognized the rights of the signatory nations to maintain and construct fortifications for defensive purposes, it aimed to avoid an escalation of military presence that could lead to tensions. Then, maintenance of the status quo. By affirming the status quo, the Four Power Treaty starts to prevent any aggressive actions that could upset balance of power in the Pacific. This was particularly relevant given the aftermath of World War I and the desire to avoid a new arms race in the region. At the conclusion, Warren G. Harding's presidency is often overshadowed by scandal, but his early life reflects a journey of perseverance and ambition. He was one of the ambitious person. Despite humble beginnings, he rose to become president, symbolizing the American dream. However, his administration's transient legacy serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of integrity and transparency in leadership. Thank you. Thank you for this golden opportunity. I thank our management and our principal ma'am and all the staff members and the students. Thank you very much.